at the Embassy of Italy in Prague for this event on the occasion of the International Day of Women in Diplomacy. First of all, I would like to thank the Ambassador of Spain, Maria Perez Sanchez, and the entire Spanish delegation for co-organizing this event with us. Italy and Spain share a common and important Italy and Spain share a relevant commitment, especially at multilateral level, with many countries here today with us. Specifically, I would like to remember a couple of milestones that we share in common. The UN Resolution on Female Genital Mutilation of 2020, the UN Resolution on Forced Marriages 2024, the UN Resolution on Women, Peace and Security of 2000, and most of all, the Istanbul Convention of 2011. We are very honored to have here with us today the Turkish ambassador and her deputy, our dear colleague Banu. Equal representation of women in diplomacy is crucial, and hopefully women's representation in our diplomatic corps has improved greatly over the years. In the Italian case, Article 3 of our Constitution recognizes the principle of gender equality. Practical implementation. Our Constitution celebrates this year the 79th birthday. Next year women's participation in diplomacy is not only important for reason of descriptive representation, of course, but since studies show clearly that peace agreements with women among the signatories have a higher rate of implementation. It is for this reason that our embassy has decided to organize today's event, and I would like to welcome Hello, and I would like to welcome Yes. I would like to welcome the outstanding women diplomats who will discuss these issues together in our roundtable. We're very happy to have this morning with us Ambassador Irina Sermano, Ambassador of Indonesia, Ambassador Edita Rda, Ambassador Edita Rda, Czech Government Envoy for the Balkans. Jana Sediva, Deputy Director of the Czech Western Europe Department. And Consular Hanna Vajda, Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of Canada. After the roundtable, Mr. Michael Broza, Head of the UN Information Center in Prague, as well, will give us an overview of the background behind the establishment of the International Day of Women in Diplomacy. Following Michael, we will hear a contribution also from the Czech side, by Dr. Alena Kriskova on the involvement of women in institutional context. And finally, we will listen to the closing remarks of the Ambassador of Spain. As always in a speech, a quote is expected, more or less interesting. I would like to refer to a brilliant essay that was written almost 100 years ago. In 1929, Virginia Woolf published the brilliant essay, A Room of One's Own, where, among other things, she described the imaginary character of Judith Shakespeare, a brilliant, ambitious, gifted writer who fled to London as the imaginary brother William Shakespeare, but fatally committed suicide at the end of her life. The story of Shakespeare's sister explains us today that still environment dictates achievements. As I see many Shakespeare's women among us still today, sometimes even in diplomacy. But I don't want to close with a pessimistic note, so I will like to quote an Italian woman who was Minister of Foreign Affairs and EU Commissioner, Emma Bonino. Referring to women, she said, "Nothing is impossible, but nothing is for free. To be pessimist is useless, and to commit is difficult, but it's the only way out. So I think in a nutshell, that's what we're trying to do today, celebrating the International Day of Women Equality. I leave the floor to our moderator, Adriana Dagman, that will introduce, if she likes, our speaker and moderate the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. That's a very, very interesting questions, but in order to answer that, I have to tell you a bit about where I come from. I come from Indonesia. It is a highly diverse country. To give you a perspective, we have more than 600 ethnic groups. We have, last count, 737 languages, distinct languages, and not to mention we have a very diverse culture, religions, and beliefs. So I think for most Indonesians, consensus building, mediation is very important, and so becomes natural to most of them. And our diplomacy is guided by the free and active foreign policy principle. It was formulated early on after our independence in 1945, which means we don't align ourselves with any of the superpower blocs at that time, and we actively contribute to world peace and international order as enshrined in our constitution. This means our diplomacy is characterized by the practice of bridge building and consensus building. What
I think this is a microphone that is not operating. So I can speak loudly because, of course, from the big rooms of the UN or the EU, we are used to vote in a small country. So thank you for having me. Good morning to everybody. I am very pleased to see not only women but also men here among us. And I am very pleased to see Michal Zelda, with whom we cooperate a lot on many issues when I served in New York. And especially I do remember these moments, you mentioned it a bit, the situation when I worked very closely with women. And we were meeting and we were trying to push not only the women community forward in the UN, and it was not easy, you can imagine. When I came to the UN, the ladies from protocol were waiting for me, and they were telling me, 21, 21, 21, and I was saying, what is this, 21? Please, is it poker or what? And they were saying, no, you are woman number 21 in our diplomatic corps. And I am speaking, ladies and gentlemen, about the year 2011. Only that we put it right into the track, and when we see how the world changed to today, it's really enormous. Of course, in my experience, it is not only that we cannot say that the women are better negotiators, surely, by definition. Definitely not. That's not true. But maybe I would say we have a bit different perspective regarding the process of negotiation. And I will be a bit not diplomatic, if I may say, that especially in these days we are living in a very strange world when a lot of things are really pushed by, let me say, testosterone. And we cannot be surprised that there is also a call for a hard hand in driving the countries. Look around here also in Europe, whom we vote, for what we vote means us nations. So it is of course not surprise that there are wars coming in different places of the world, And unfortunately, this is definitely not good for a diplomacy. Because, of course, we know that the war is only continuation of politics by other means, as the classic Clausewitz said once, many years ago. So,
Well, thank you for including me on this panel. I had this idea, I want to say, if testosterone is war, maybe diplomacy is progesterone. I spent a lot of time reading about hormones lately, so I like the hormone mention. I'm a little bit intimidated to speak on this topic because of the amount of experience in this room, but there's kind of two things I guess I want to talk about. Is Canada's approach to diversity and inclusion and kind of the policies, but also I think what may be valuable to hear is some of the tactical work strategies that we use to try to advance equitable employment and advancement in leadership. And then I'm very passionate about this topic, so if I go on too long, feel free to stop me. But I also kind of want to talk about the masculine and feminine qualities, because I think to be a whole person, we need testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen. And so our institutions are trying in Canada to bring whole people to the table and to the leadership positions. So those who can make decisions and be compassionate. And those are the types of bosses we want to work for, right? And the type of leaders we want at the negotiating table and making decisions for our countries and for the world. So for me, diplomacy is an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to influence, it's an opportunity for peace, to advance my country's trade relationships with the Czech Republic, with the European Union, with the US in upcoming talks. And so in Canada, we do believe that diverse representation, it leads to better problem solving, more innovation, and in the end, stronger institutions which help us withstand pressure and be sustainable. So some policies we have in place are employment equity, which means diverse recruitment, and our country has made an attempt, actually a successful attempt at gender balanced leadership. So in 2015, we had the first gender even cabinet. It was evenly split, and we have reached 50% parity in female ambassadors. I think it was 2022, I don't remember the exact year.
Good morning, yes. Thank you very much for inviting me to meet you all today. I'm happy to be in this group. And yes, thank you very much. Let me mention that I am happy to be here with Ambassador of Indonesia, because my first posting was in Indonesia and last posting was in the Philippines. And in the meantime, I was always involved with Asia or Western Europe right now. And I will try to be short because we don't have enough time today. But my few points are that yes, from Asia we can learn patience. I would say that Asian diplomacies in general are more patient, and this is something what we are missing in current days. At least that's my personal observation. Also, the mediation and also ability to listen. This is something what I learned in Asia. Sometimes being back in Prague, I feel I'm not listened by my colleagues, sometimes by my supervisors. They are not really listening, and they are not working with our inputs. But I know it's special day of women in diplomacy today, so let's go back to women, but not only. I think it's about character of us. That characters in diplomacy are very important. Doesn't matter if we speak about women or men, and we should really listen to each other and learn from each other. Because I am with the foreign ministry, it's 26 years now, and I am still surprised every day that we don't know enough about each other, and not only like between Asia and Europe or Latin America, but also here in
cannot definitely answer it in one sentence. Yeah, I'd love to change. I'm amazed with all of the rules that you have changed here in Canada and Czech Republic. In Indonesia, we have our changes. We have made changes as well. For example, I was the first woman ambassador sent to the so-called hardship post in Bangladesh and Nepal during a very difficult time with the influx of the Rohingyas from Myanmar to Bangladesh. And I was also the first woman to hold a high-ranking position, the first echelon, in a coordinating ministry, coordinating ministry for political and security affairs, and I was in charge of coordinating foreign policy implementation among ministries. And I was one woman among generals, police inspectors, and I even have 1-star general under my command and 7 colonels under my command, and coordinating hard things like transnational organized crime, border disputes, and everything. So that was the first, because normally women are sent to comfortable posts, which made some men in the foreign service jealous as well. But now we have women as ambassador in Cuba. We have diplomats serving in Karachi, in male-dominated society like Riyadh and Jeddah and other hardship posts all over the world. But institutionally, I would see a lot more changes. We have come a long way. We now allow diplomats, husband and wife, to go on postings together, but yet not in the same post, but in nearby countries. We have a better support system for women and families in our ministry. We have lactation room. We have a daycare, especially for and this is since 20 years ago, I think. But there are a lot more changes, and I think these changes should not only be made by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but we have a system where all government institutions have to be in similar form. So I would love to see more structural flexibility in the government institutions, also that allows for more women in leadership and more women in diplomacy, because I think if rules are just made to make women in the top position, that would not be enough. Rules has to be made for the sake of bringing the institution into a modern era that befits the current global society that we are facing.
I'm a lawyer by profession, and I've fought for women's rights for decades. Also as a president of the Turkish Bar for over 10 years. But this session was an eye-opener. Thank you so much. It was so effective because you shared very personal experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, it is a pleasure to join you on this International Day of Women in Diplomacy. And let me begin by thanking to our hosts and partners from Italy and Spain for bringing us together, and also by expressing my appreciation to the distinguished diplomats who have shared their experiences and insight during the roundtable discussion. And I need to add now what the discussion was really, really very useful, and thank you for that. And I'm particularly pleased that one of our speakers today is Edita Hedda, and I had the privilege of working with her during her UN diplomatic tenure. And many of you know that she became the first woman permanent representative of the Czech Republic to the United Nations. And she achieved many. She achieved many firsts in her career. But what I remember most is not that she was a woman in a senior diplomatic position. It was her professionalism, some judgment and commitment to multilateral diplomacy. And that is the standard to which all diplomats aspire. What struck me in the discussion we just heard was that our speakers did not talk about diplomacy as an abstract concept. They spoke about diplomacy as it practiced every day. We heard about many challenges women diplomats face, but also about their strengths and abilities in building trust, managing differences, finding common ground, and advancing cooperation in an increasingly complex world. In many ways, that is precisely what this day is about. The International Day of Women in Diplomacy was established by the United Nations to recognize the contribution of women to one of the most important professions, by fostering dialogue, promoting peace, and helping nations work together in times of challenge and uncertainty. Women have always contributed to diplomacy, but for much of history, they were too often absent from the rooms where decisions were made and from the leadership positions where those decisions were shaped. Today, the picture is changing. All around the world, women serve as ambassadors, foreign ministers, negotiators, heads of international organizations, leaders of public life, etc. And their expertise, professionalism, and leadership strengthen diplomacy every day. At the same time, the numbers remind us that the journey towards full equality is not yet complete.
Yes. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Laura, and your team for the complicity in organizing this event. Just a few closing remarks to highlight the main ideas that were already mentioned. By proclaiming the International Day of Women in Diplomacy, the UN General Assembly recognized that achieving sustainable development, peace, and security requires the full and equal participation of women at all levels of international decision-making. This commemoration, thus, is a reminder of a fundamental truth. Managing the multiple and complex crises of our current global landscape requires 100% of our available talent. Celebrating this day grants us an opportunity to shine a light on inspiring female role models and foster vocations among young women and girls. A clear example can be found right here in the Czech Republic, the birthplace of one of the greatest legends in global foreign policy, Madeleine Albright. Yet, despite legacies like hers, data from the 2025 Women in Diplomacy Index reflect that a sharp gap persists. Women hold just 22.5% of permanent mission and embassy leadership posts globally. Moving forward, these global figures is not simple, but Spain is an undeniable proof that this change is possible. We've heard other very inspiring examples here, of course. The presence of highly qualified women has consolidated over recent decades. In fact, they represent, in the case of my country, 60% of new entries in the recent cohorts of the diplomatic school. This excellent foundation has allowed us to advance steadily. The percentage of Spanish female heads of mission abroad has increased remarkably, climbing to around 20% of the total. This is not yet an ideal figure, of course, we're not even a third, but this figure has meant to practically doubling our figures from the beginning of the decade, so we're moving forward. Our real challenge now is to accelerate the adaptation of internal structures to advance policies on work-life balance and shared family responsibilities, as has been mentioned here. This is our challenge, to internally transform the career. To understand how to adapt these structures, it is deeply valuable to listen on the concrete individual testimonies of women diplomats from different generations, professional paths, and geographical backgrounds, just like there are 4 panelists, my dear colleagues, who shared this roundtable earlier this morning. Thank you very much, the 4 of you, for accepting this invitation. Your personal experience proves also that there is no single mode, but also that breaking down structural barriers answer directly to 2 pillars, equity and pragmatism. By equity, because no democracy is fully legitimate if it maintains a glass ceiling, and by pragmatic effectiveness, because research compiled, just to set an example, to add an example to what has been already mentioned here, research compiled, as I was saying, by the Council on Foreign Relations, show that when women formally participate in negotiations, the likelihood of a peace agreement lasting at least 15 years increases by 35%. And just to conclude, I would like to address directly our male diplomatic colleagues. Thank you for being here once again. This defense of equality is not a dispute over space, nor is it a divisive agenda designed to work against you. It is not. On the contrary, the modernization of diplomatic structures required by parity directly benefits you also. We do not want you as supportive spectators. We need you as strategic allies. When institutions become more efficient and meritocratic, everyone wins. And above all, the societies and the states that we represent win. So thank you very much. Thank you very much all for being here, and please pass the message. Thank you.